welcome to episode 52 of the Alexei podcast. And we've got an interview with a really interesting comedian today and a genuinely nice guy. And we also have to say that because Talal had the temerity to go on his holidays or something, that his brother Ahmed did the recording, and the sound, I sound all right, but Lee Mack sounds a bit like he sounds all right. You've had to work hard on it, but he did sound at first like he was in a bucket, really, didn't he? At first, I'm impressed with how much it's improved. So it's listenable. I don't want people to give me a hard time for the sound. The sound's anyway. Good. If you could, but apart from the Patreon people, nobody else is paying. If you could hear how it sounded before, you would be impressed by how good it sounds now. But it's very listenable. And thanks to my brother Maddie for stepping in to produce the episode. Absolutely. But Lee Mack, it was really nice. I got to edit it, and I had the pleasure of editing it. He sounds really nice. Yeah, he's a really nice guy. But I mean, also immensely popular. It's not necessarily two things that generally go together. It's true. And I always say you can tell how nice someone is by how they treat a cat, and he's very nice to Wilf. He's lovely to Wilf. Yeah. I don't know whether it's one for the comedy aficionados, really. I mean, we do get quite deep into the business of comedy, really, but then, that's what he does. Yeah, that's what he does. That's who we are. So without further ado, let's listen to Excel Podcast with special guest, Lee Mack. Hello, everybody. Welcome to podcast number 51 of the Alexei podcast. And in our tradition of having doer Marxist theoreticians analysing the ins and outs of dialectical and historical materialism, we have today our guest is Mr. Lee Mack.
Yeah, I'm worried I'm going to be homework.
You did get a bit panicky when I put them books there.
Yeah, you put books down to rest the mind. Yeah. And the way you put them there in front of me, I thought, I might be supposed to have read these. Right? One's Queens of Bohemia. Yeah. Can't see the other one, but they look like
it's Andy Beckett, The Searchers, which is a history of Diane Abbott, Jeremy Corbyn, Ken Livingstone, and Tony Benn.
Yeah, no, I didn't read it, so I haven't done the research. But,
I'm sorry.
Sorry about that. I have to change you have to change all your questions for me.
Yeah, League. So anyway, welcome, Lee. It's been a great admirer of yours, and just I guess I don't know. I always pride myself on not doing any research or even thinking about the podcast before I do it. But
I've listened to your podcast. That's why I like it. Yeah, I do like that. It doesn't seem to have any edits as well. Something I might regret if I text you tomorrow, could you take that? I mean, no, we don't do it.
No, we do. We're not. We're anything.
It's funny actually. I said to my missus, right, that's it now. No more podcasts, because I think of podcasts as what I call the new dustbins. And what I mean by that is, you remember when the press went through a period of rooting for people's dustbins to look for stuff. Well, now they root for a podcast because they know you're unguarded, because you'll do a podcast. I don't mean this one, but you'll do a podcast that not many people listen to, so you'll say things that you wouldn't normally say. Yeah. And the next minute, you've
had it. Yeah.
And you've said something, you go, oh, no. And they don't fact check it because
it's there.
It doesn't matter, no one's listening to it anyway, so you get away with saying anything. So, but I like this one. So I thought, I'll do it. Yeah, no, we do edit out. Anybody. Peter Capaldi went on about the satanic rituals that he takes part in, and. He asked us to take that out, and so we did. Yeah, it's all right.
You haven't met him, have you?
I've never met him, and I'm a fan. That's one of the first ones I went to on your list.
Yeah, there's nobody less likely to have any skeletons in their cupboard than Peter. So, I guess just start at the beginning, really, how you got into it. We've met once before, I think, haven't we?
Yeah.
We went for a reasonably priced pizza.
We had a very nice pizza. We were on a radio show. We both were were guest actors. We weren't doing stand-ups on that. We were actors.
Phil Ellis.
And I always, because I like, I don't, I think there's two lists. You're on the acting list or the stand-up list. Or more to the point, you play yourself or you're on the other list. And I'm on one list, I'm doing all right, that's fine, I can't have a complaint. But on the other list, it's been a battle, to act or anything like that. So anything where they say, do you want to play this character? I go, oh, yeah, please.
Yeah. But then, we're getting to it. You are, in a sense, it's sometimes, I don't know if I'm doing you a disservice, but you are an enormous star in a sense, while at the same time being not starry at all. Because you're in two massive series, and yet my perception of you is that you're not, tabloid fodder, and you're not.
Yeah, I don't think I suppose, like we just joked about the bins and bring the bins. When I am that person on the story, and it's usually tittle tattle. But my mate, I don't do social media, so you can easily miss it. So much news out there now. You can miss an item that you're even part of because it's tickle tackle.
Right.
But when it's like, I've only once been on BBC News, the lists. When you go on the BBC News website, my story had made it into the day's news, and it is a shock because I don't think of myself as being worthy of news.
Yeah. So, but then you came here on you got the train to Waterloo to get the tube from there. Or?
I actually got a chauffeur driven Mercedes, but I was just trying to impress with my bless. Left-wing routes. No, I'm just getting off the train now. I was around the corner, so just give it 10 minutes and I'll walk around to his house. No, I didn't get the train. I go virtually everywhere on the train. I try and avoid going in. I'll drive myself. I don't like being driven. I'd like to pretend it's purely some sort of environmentally friendly thing. And part of it is that, but it's mainly because I don't like being driven by somebody else. I don't like the small talk.
Yeah. Well, so I don't know. Yeah, just where you're from? What did you do? How did you get into it?
Well, I'm from Southport, which I know from listening to this. That's where you went to.
I was at Article for 2 years. Yeah.
We were just talking off mic. I don't know if it was the same place I went to, but I went to Southport Tech.
Yeah.
And I went because I failed my O-levels.
Yeah.
So I had to resit them. Well, I didn't have to, but I didn't know what else I was going to do in my life. I remember thinking, I can't get a job. I'm 16. I'm a child. I actually left school at 15 because I didn't turn 16 to summer. So I often tell people that I'm some sort of Dickensian.
Yeah, well, I left school.
Sweet, yeah.
I left school at 16 because they told me to. They wouldn't let me back in.
Did you get expelled?
Yeah, kind of. Well, it wasn't. I don't know if it was
technically. You were due to leave then anyway, right?
No, I was halfway through sixth form. I went sixth form.
Oh, really?
I did 1 year of sixth form, and then I don't know if it's technically expelled if they just tell you not to come back.
Right, yeah. Well,
so they didn't
expel me. I think that's the same thing. If you're at work and they say not to come back, that's called a sacking.
Yeah, but it was after like the second year they said don't come back for the second year.
Right. Well, do you know what? A similar thing at the same time because I went to resit my O-levels. Yeah. And after a few months they called me in and said similar words like, I don't really think you're... I was like a kid still, so I was messing about and getting told off. And they were like, you're coming here voluntarily now, so why are you behaving like this,
This is the Tech. We should talk a little bit. I think it's interesting. We should talk about the Southport Tech. So I think it was... I
was only there for 2 months. I've got a massive amount.
Oh, okay.
That's when they chunked me out.
Oh, I see. So you actually got... Well, Southport Tech was like... It was built as a round... It was a square, kind of a... So it was a four-sided building.
With a
yeah, kind of 1930s, right. I think. Probably, the height of kind of civic pride, I think, northern civic pride. And the three sides were the Tech, which did like O-levels and A-levels, and then presumably did vocational stuff, apprenticeships and shit like that. And then the front, given the plate, was the art school.
Oh, okay.
So the whole front was the art school where I went.
So were you living there? Or you commuted?
No, I commuted every day from Liverpool. Yeah, it's what, like 45 minutes. Yeah.
Well, Southport's always had that affiliation with Liverpool because obviously Southport became Merseyside in I think it was 1972. So I was born in Southport, Lancashire, and then it became Merseyside. So even now I'll say I'm from Lancashire.
Yeah.
Because I grew up in Blackburn and Rochdale as well, which is very traditional Lancastrian towns.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of people from Southport say it because they're quite snobby and want to be considered Lancashire people, not Merseyside people. But for me, it's more about the accent. People go, are you from, where are you from? It's a bit of a hybrid of Southport and Blackburn.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the tech was very short-lived for me.
So you're doing your O-levels there.
So I went to resit them because I failed everything. Yeah. And then I remember the day I can't remember if they literally said, you're expelled from here, or like you said, don't bother coming back.
Yeah.
Which I think was established as the same.
Yeah.
And because
that is a thing, because you've come out of school, and when you go to a college, I mean, abruptly, again, because I was thrown out of school. When you start going to the tech, you don't realise that it's voluntary.
It's voluntary, and it's for grown-ups now.
Yeah.
And all my mates had got into KGV. Do you know KGV? KGV is the sixth form college. So our school didn't have a sixth form college. So that was the automatic place you went. You did your O-levels, you did well, and you went to KGV. And we were in the old awful days of you're an A bander or a B bander. You're in the top half or the bottom half, and you're set for that whole school life. Absolutely terrible. So we were in the sort of top bit. We were all expected to go to KGV. And I just messed everything up. And so I went to this college, lasted about 8 weeks. And I remember the day I went home thinking, right, I've been chucked out. What am I going to do now with my life? And I put the telly on, and horse racing was on. And my granddad was into the betting a bit. But apart from that, no connection with racing at all. But Red Rum was trained in Southport.
Indeed, we're very proud.
And so he was still alive at the time. He'd retired as a racehorse, but now he was opening supermarkets and betting shops. I mean, he'd go with someone, obviously.
You'd see him in there, You'd see him in the pub on Lord Street, wouldn't you?
Of course, and he was famously trained behind a second-hand car lot. He didn't even have gallops. You used to have to take him to the beach to train him. And they say that's why he became so good, because he had a bad foot when he arrived, went in the sea at Southport, and it mended his foot. It's the theory. And when I went, I was watching the telly, and I went, well, maybe I'll be a jockey then. Having never ridden a horse in my life, I was a skinny little kid. That was the only thing I thought was in my advantage. And I phoned them up that day. So I remember being chucked out of college in the morning and phoning up McCain's stables in the afternoon and going, I'd like to be a jockey. Can I come and work for you?
Do you think if there'd been something else on about being a butcher or something, you would have done that? Yeah.
Yeah, you never know. Blimey, yeah.
There must have been something connected with you about being a jockey.
Well, I've always loved sport.
Yeah.
And I was always rubbish at sport. Well, not rubbish, but certainly nowhere near good enough at any sport to ever even consider it. And I just thought, I was deluded. I thought, well, I think the horse does the work. and I think, and I'm skinny and I'm small, because I think, again, this is me being deluded rather than having to go at the sport itself.
Yeah.
Is that there are certain sports where I think, like, when you get basketball players and you go, you are the best basketball player in the world. You go, well, you're not, are you? You are the best basketball players of everyone that grew to 7 foot, which is a very small amount of people.
Yeah.
And likewise, of all the jockeys, because you have to be tiny and small, then you are the best of those.
Yeah.
So you've already had a massive advantage just physically, Because I was nowhere near the height of these.
Because you're not a small man.
Well, no, but there's 2 horse racing. There's flat racing and jump racing. Flat racing is for the little guys like Tory, and National Hunt, which is the Grand National, and anything over. They're much taller and much bigger.
Really, I didn't know that.
Not like when I say much taller and bigger. If one came in here now, you go, "Who's that little skinny fella?"
Right.
But I mean, in relation to the little, all proper flat jockeys they look like kids. In terms of
I think there's a Simpsons episode, isn't it, where he offends the jockeys, all these tiny little men,
little boys. Yeah. Well, there's no flat jockeys that grow tall. They'd be too heavy.
Right. There's also, I have to mention, there was. Yeah, you're talking about the horse does all the way, because there's a Jerry Seinfeld line, isn't it, about talking about the luge, or the saying you could literally kidnap somebody, and they could enter the luge as a Olympian, really, because you're just going very fast.
And to the viewer, obviously that's not what it is.
No,
there's obviously far more to it. But as a viewer, you do go, well, aren't you just lying on that thing? In the same as aren't you just sitting on that horse?
Yeah.
But the reality is totally different, as I learned very quickly, because within a week, they stuck me. I got the job, so unpaid. I was just like, we'll let you work.
Is this partly, so when was this, 70s?
No, this was 84.
Oh,
so I left school in 84.
Right.
Because
it was like my memory of the 60s is that work was so plentiful that you could walk in and out of jobs. The fact that I was regularly employed in the 70s, 60s and 70s is a testament to how... So I was like the worst employee in the world, but I could get work all the time, any job, airline pilot, anything really, because they were so desperate for workers, really.
Yeah, just walk in,
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I suppose, but I mean, look, I wasn't getting paid, so it was quite easy to pick up the phone and say, I lied as well. I remember saying, Ginger McCain's the trainer and his wife, Beryl, answered the phone. And I said, look, I live in Southport as well, and I've always wanted to be a jockey. Brackets, well, since this morning. And I said, and the best thing about it is I'm 7 stone, right? Which was not true. I was very skinny, very small at that age, but I wasn't 7 stone. I was probably about 8.5 or 9 stone. There's a massive difference there. Yeah. So when I turned up, she looked at me and went, there's no way you're 7 stone. I went, well, I've exaggerated a bit. But they let me work there for a few months just for no money, and then they put me on a YTS. Remember the YTS?
Yeah.
So I did a year there, but within days of landing there, I knew, because they put me on a horse, actually Red Rum. So that was the first horse I had. So that's my little claim to fame. But when I sat on that horse or tried some others and they trotted me up and down, I knew instantly that I was terrified of these things and had no interest.
Right, okay, that's
big.
Yeah.
You just don't get it until you sit on them, just how big they are and how they're thoroughbreds. So they're not like, they've got their mind of their own.
Yeah.
I think, I suspect they're possibly just all a bit too inbred.
Right.
So they're very highly strung. I mean, they are national hunts, so it means they've had their balls whipped off.
Right.
So that calms them a bit. But even so, I mean, I just thought, I can't do it. I've had horses running off down the road with me and on a high street in Southport,
Really?
Yeah, it's just awful.
Because, I've sat on horses, as part of filming, that if you're playing some character on an horse, and it is, even that's terrifying.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
You just think, it's like, I've got a moped.
Right.
And you always keep your one eye on the roads in London when you're driving that thing, and you're like, make sure that nothing's going to hit me. And if they added onto the mix that at any point the moped could do what it wants, I'd never get on it, would I?
No.
If I turn right, it goes, that's out the left, And they know, they definitely sense fear. 100%.
Yeah, and then
that gets them nervous, and they feel it through. It's horrible. I have so much admiration for those jockeys, I really do. So that was a year of my life doing that.
Was it formative? I mean,
oh my God, it was.
Doing something, the contradiction between something that the terrible mistake that you'd made. Did that?
Well, the fact is, I knew within weeks I didn't want to do it, and yet I stayed there a year.
Yeah.
And I was earning 25 quid a week, so it wasn't for the money. There was a certain lifestyle. It's a cliche to say you go in as a boy and you come out a man, but I suddenly was this kid, physically a kid as well. I was so small and skinny. And the next minute, I'm going out with all these Irish jockeys to pubs and going racing and spending the night at the races, and just a lot of booze, a lot of just a very wild life.
But I wonder as well, one of the things I always felt about that whole apprentice system is that the young men are socialised, aren't they? They're taught, I don't know, you taught a kind of moral codes or ethics by those older men. Or maybe you weren't.
I think there was I can't remember. It's not like I went under the wing of some great mentor that I still think what to say, but it was just the fact of being, for the first time in my life, surrounded by people who were working rather than being at school, or being in education. And these guys were Irish jockeys. A couple of them were Irish jockeys. They'd come in, basically they'd left home, left their country to come to England to be jockeys. So I'm looking back, they were probably only 25 or whatever, but suddenly they become your you've lost your schoolmates, and now you've got new mates that are 10 years, 9 years older than you, and you've never been to I grew up in a pub, but I've never been to a pub to get a drink. You know, I think I probably had my first couple of pints during that period and was puking up in the back. All the things that you go through in that period of your life. Well, I did it with Toothless Irish Jockey.
Yeah. I did it with humorless Marxist revolutionaries.
Right.
Same process,
Did you do the same thing? Did you get drinks out of college, turn the television on, and there was some I'll do that then.
So Chairman Mao, and I thought, that's for me.
If you'd have turned over, it would have been the fascists, you'd have been with them, wouldn't you?
Well, you sometimes think that, really. Yeah. But no, it's because I inherited my Marxism
right. So
from my parents.
But you were like me in the sense that from what I know about you, that you certainly weren't at footlights.
Yeah.
You know, it was, you had the working life.
Yeah.
And then it was the comedy. I don't know what yours, mine was, I sort of made the decision in my head when I was 15, I'm going to be a comedian, even though I had no idea. Well, as a seed of thought, I'd love to be a comedian, but that would be like saying I want to be an astronaut. I remember thinking it.
Yeah.
But we didn't have, well, I was going to say we didn't have any, we had working men's clubs.
Yeah.
But the revolution that you were part of has certainly not gone up north yet. It was very London-centric. And so, you know, to want of a better word, alternative comedy was 3 years old at this point.
Yeah.
And was, from what I know, was all in London. And so my sort of people that I saw when I used to go to my dad's working men's clubs, and I didn't necessarily go, this is what I want to do.
No.
It's only when I started watching things like Friday Night Live and, you know, The Young Ones and all that I thought, that's what I want to do.
Right.
So that was early 80s, you know, 81, 82, but...
That's 3 or 4 years after.
Still 2 or 3 years, but I remember thinking, I went for enjoyment thinking, I wonder if I could do something like that. But where the hell would you start if you're from the northwest of England in the early 80s? You know, it's one thing thinking it. And I didn't do my first open spot till like 10 years after that. So I had 10 years of jobs.
Right.
Dead-end jobs.
Doesn't do you any harm.
No,
I don't
absolutely
think.
not.
I think
No, it really didn't.
Well, and it is that, I don't know. I mean, it's you know, I mean, for me, I mean, even more so than usual, you know, the entertainment business seemed like an impenetrable barricade, you know, that you didn't. Whereas, of course, for the children of the media classes and those footlights people, it's just you ring up. I remember it wasn't.
Were you in London then? Or did you come to London before?
Yeah, I came to London in 1971 to go to art school. I mean, that was my way out, really, was because I was like unacademic. I've got 4 O levels. I've got art, history, English literature, and English language, and they're quite poor O levels as well. Well, I
only got 2, and they were both C's. So.
Oh, really? Yeah, well, I think it was done by numbers in my day. So I've got 2 3s and 2 4s.
Wow, that's good though, because you can tell you got a 3 and no one knows what it means.
Yeah.
Everyone knows as C's, you've scraped through.
Yeah.
That's my proudest moment though, getting the geography, because in the old days, it was you were GCSE, you were O level, or CSE. CSE being the sort of less academic version of an O level. And they wanted to demote me from O-level geography to CSE because they said after me mocks, there's no way he's going to pass. And my mum, who just was not this type of person, wasn't having it. She went into the school. She went, he's just passed his mock O-level. Why are you demoting him? He was lucky. It's not going to happen, blah, blah, blah. Up to a year later, scraped through with a C at O-level. And then about 3 or 4 years later, my mate's brother started the school. And he said the geography teacher's opening speech now. Telling you now, there's a kid in the school called Lee Mack. That's my real name.
All right.
If he could get a geography O level, there's no excuses for any of you.
This was before you were famous.
So I thought, I quite like that idea that he's using me as the benchmark of if any idiot can do it. If that's inspirational, it's completely mocking me.
I'm not sure, really. I'm not sure. So what? So. I mean, do you think who was I talking to? There's so many comics, for instance, from Bolton itself, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's like Diane. I mean, I've interviewed at least two. It's, I mean, come on, sort of actors. I mean, Diane Morgan and
they're all over. My mate was pointing out they're all on Radio 2 now. You've got Sarah Cox, Vernon Kay, and Paddy McGuinness. They're all from Bolton.
Yeah, so I mean that's a real hot.
It's a hotbed, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know.
Peter Kay.
Peter Kay. I mean, the ultimate.
The ultimate.
Yeah, the king of our.
Yeah.
The king of our business. I mean, do you think there's a certain kind of Lancashire sensibility?
Well, there was definitely true that when I was growing up in the 70s watching sort of the pre-alternative days, there was a show, you'll know it, the Comedians. That was the only time you really saw stand-up on telly, from the Wheel Tappers and Shunters. And the Wheel Tappers and Shunters, I know you know this, but I'm just explaining to the younger listeners, was set in a working men's club in the north of England, although it wasn't a TV studio, and he learned that later on in life. So he was in a TV studio.
It was all a lie.
Yeah, all a lie. And that's what comedy was when you'd grown up in the 70s. You'd see lots of working men's clubs, comedians on the telly, and they were all joke tellers. They just told jokes. They didn't have any material as such. A lot of it was shared jokes and things they'd heard and pub gags. And there was a disproportionate amount of them, I think, from the Northwest. There was a lot of Scousers, people from Blackburn, Bolton, that whole... I mean,
I think there was one who had a true kind of streak of madness about him and wasn't entirely a gag talent. That was Freddie Starr.
Freddie Starr, yeah. He was... But you wouldn't be seeing him on The Comedians because the TV show, The Comedians, because you had 5 minutes.
Right.
And in fact, they used to edit it, didn't they? Where you'd hear one guy tell a joke, then you'd hear Frank Carson tell a joke, and back to that fella again for his next joke. Yeah. And it was... I suppose it's everything that you guys sort of rebelled against. Because there was a lot of... there was a lot of sexism and homophobia and racism. It was all there in a package. You get them all in one show.
Yeah.
You didn't have to go looking. It was all available. But it's also true that there was comedians that weren't like that, but they all got lumped in together.
Yeah.
I used to love Mick Miller at the time, He had, But again, I might watch it back now, think differently about a lot of the stuff I used to see, but I didn't watch it going, I want to do this. I just, that came when I started watching TV in the early 80s and watching, like I say, BBC Two, Channel 4. Channel 4 changed a lot, because it was the for a while, certainly when it started, it was so incredibly revolutionary in terms of what it was showing,
Did they have a lot of stand-up then? I can't remember.
Not really. I mean, to be honest with you, the
comic strip.
It was because comic strip and the Young Ones was roughly the same time. Wasn't it? It was the same week, wasn't it? I think they all seemed to land at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think there was a sort of unique age gap of people like me who were too young for punk, but not too old to be not interested anymore in any art movements.
Right.
It's a very niche little, you've got to be between the age of, I think, about 45. I think more people appreciate it, but I'm saying that for me, it was a life-changing thing where I went, oh my God, I've never seen anything like this before. And that's when I thought, I'd love to do that. But that is a whole world away from knowing what that means.
It seemed very London, did it, in a way?
Totally. I suppose watching it on telly was the first sort of thing in my head that flipped, that wanted to do it. So I was probably about 81, was it? So 82, was that Young Ones 81 or 2?
82.
So I'm probably 13 or 14 now.
Right.
All the cliches that you all probably sick to death of hearing.
Never.
We were doing all the voices in the playground. I would do you. I would do the landlord. And we all had our parts in that. We could all do certain impressions. And then another big night was when I then moved to London and split up with my then girlfriend, was walking around Leicester Square with an old mate of mine who come to visit and saw this sign that said the Comedy Store, and I went, oh, I think this is where those guys just came from, the Comedy Store. This is where it all started.
Because it wasn't the original
spot. It wasn't the original spot. It wasn't the old strip club one.
No.
This was the one in Leicester Square.
The second one, not where it is.
Not where it is now, not where it was originally.
Yeah.
So I suppose the second one was more like really what you would pretty much see nowadays. Compare 3 or 4, I don't want to say straight stand-ups, but not the variety of lunacy, perhaps, that you would have had in the old comedy store. With all respect. But you know what I mean? All the variety of difference, you Rick and Aid Edmondson coming on and smashing things over their heads is less likely to be seen as it moved on a bit and became a bit more.
Yeah. So what year this be?
So this was, I remember exactly when it was. It was the day after Thatcher resigned.
So 1990.
1990. And because I remember that because all the comics that were on the bill were talking about Thatcher the night before, and I thought, this is incredible. They're so worldly wise and intelligent, and so they know all about politics. I don't. These guys are, because it's still, this was 1990, so it's still a very political leaning. It was very, politics was the thing that you wouldn't see. It was still no gag tellers then. It was all
it was very advantageous then for your career to be left wing as well.
Absolutely,
as opposed to now. But just reel back a bit. You'd been doing shit job. I mean, you went to university.
I went. So the basic order of events was I go to school, I get chucked out, I do the jockey thing, the horse stable lad thing for a year, and that takes me through to about the age of sort of 17. And then I would bingo hall, went to a bingo hall for a couple of years in Southport, which actually, weirdly, was...
It's kind of performing, isn't it? Yeah.
You had to pick up a mic.
Yeah.
And you had to read... It was a big... Not one of those rubbishy little... There was one ping pong balls in a cage. I'm talking all electronic. Oh, wow. You would link up with other comedy clubs, bingo clubs, win a lot of money, roll over jackpot, all this kind of... It was taken very seriously. And you had to pick up the mic and read out serial numbers to check claims and all that. I remember the first time I did it, picking up the mic, going, I can't talk on a microphone. And hearing my voice echo around the room and being terrified and not realising how much doing that for a year massively helped what I ended up doing. Because I also then became a Bluecoat at Pontins. Right. So that sort of led to that next bit of my life. So that was... We're now talking 88 now.
Was it a former prisoner of war camp, that Pontins? I can't remember. In Ainsdale, isn't it? Was it in
Southport?
Southport.
I think that might be
I made that up.
It might be a bit. But I don't... Well, there's the old joke about the barbed wire. It wasn't to stop people getting into Pontins. It's to stop them getting out. Yeah. But I wasn't at that one, funny enough. Yeah. Even though Southport has got a Pontins and still did have one of the last ones till very recently. It's just closed down.
Because they're still going now, but doing 80s. The ones that survived.
There's so few left now. There's but
they're doing really well.
2 or 3, yeah. It's more Butlins that come in. Butlins have really... Somehow Butlins survived really well and Pontins slowly collapsed down to the last 2 or 3. But it was a huge part of my life, that. Because despite the fact that I ended up doing what I'm doing, I didn't go there to do it. In fact, quite the opposite. I just was working at the bingo hall. And this bloke decided he was going to be an entertainment agent for local clowns and DJs and kids' parties and stuff. And I said, do you want to get him a snooker one? And he left. And I rang him up. So I met him, but at his agency. He's a little office with and as I walked in, he was on the phone and booking some clown for something. And I was waiting for him to come to the snooker hall. And he just sort of put his hand over the receiver and went, hang on a sec. It will be a Bluecoat at Pontins. And I went, all right. And he went, I've got another lad here who might be interested in an audition. I went, hang on, audition? And he went, okay, I'll send him along as well. And he basically said to me, you don't need to be a performer. You're the type that might be all right as a Bluecoat. Just be with the holiday guests. And
Did you live there when you were working there?
Oh, yeah. So I got... Really? Yeah, but the thing is, when I went for the audition, everyone was auditioning. And I was like, I don't do anything, mate. I'm just... I'm a very good snooker player, which is a lie. So I could teach them how to play snooker and stuff. I just bullshit my way in. And he knew I was bullshit, but he thought anyone that could bullshit like that, perfect to be a Bluecoat, So then I left my hometown and went all the way to Great Yarmouth on the East Coast. And that was a proper little life-changing moment. Where now, I don't think I'd ever properly left Southport. I've been on holiday. I certainly never lived away from Southport. Well, I grew up in Blackburn and Rochdale with my parents in the pub trade. Yeah. I'd never left home on my own. I was living in a bedsit in Southport at the time, but I certainly hadn't been out of Southport to live. It felt really adventurous, And it was the furthest one I could go to. It was on the east coast of East Anglia.
Were you and the other Bluecoats, was that quite, I don't know, was there a lot of carrying on between you and the Bluecoats?
I love the fact that you're doing that while slightly holding up your breast like this. It was no other carry on. there was. Well, I had a girlfriend that I met in the first year and a different girlfriend in the second year, so there was a bit of carrying on.
Right.
But it was, what was great about it was that I turn up. Everyone is from this one. Remember the TV show Fame?
Yeah.
They were all from one place. They could dance, they could sing, they were there to put on a show as well as being Blue.
Right.
I was there to just organise the football and the darts tournament, and I wasn't like them. And I felt very intimidated. I had to be in the show, but just stand at the back and wave your hands type thing.
Right.
But then a few weeks later, another bloke turned up, a bloke called Saul. And like me, he couldn't do anything. So they put us in a chalet together. And he's like my closest mate and still is.
No way.
We're godparents to each other's kids and best man at each other's wedding. And so we look very fondly back at that year of going.
Yeah, well, it's a bit like being in the army, I suppose.
Absolutely. It really is. You live in your little chalet, which is tiny. We shared a chalet as big as the one on Heidi High with Ted and what's his name lived. The beds were virtually touching together. It was so small. But because we couldn't do anything, we bonded in our sod the lot of them mentality. Yeah. So we were always dismissive of these showbiz types because we couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
That's why we survived,
Yeah.
But there was a bar there for over 18s. And because everyone was 70 and I was like 18 or 19 or whatever, I was the only one that was allowed to work in the adult bar. So I had to host stuff. They said they're not allowed in. They do the big show next door in the big family room, and your job is to play some records and say, "Please welcome this week's funny comedian, It," and then say his name. It's all you've got to do. I was terrified of doing it, but so I used to watch a lot of comedy in this adult bar, and it fascinated me, because I'd seen all these types of blokes on the comedian.
But these weren't presumably where were they on the pecking order if they were playing Pontins in Great Yarmouth?
Well, you'd have seen some of them. Perhaps they've done a bit on the comedian,
right? But
this is now 88, and the alternative revolution.
I'd ruined their careers.
I wrote an autobiography, and I said, as Alexei is like the Khmer Rouge of comedy. They've all been taken to a field and shot. And that field being Pontins.
Yeah,
the shot really. They were still working at Pontins. But there was a sense of, there's no getting around it. Everything started again, reset in the early 80s. And these guys just carried on doing what they'd always done. When they were on the comedians, they were doing the holiday camp circuits and the cruises and all this kind of stuff. But I found it fascinating that they were just showing the jokes out, and they'd come in and say, "All right, mate, who was on last night? Oh, so-and-so. Did he do the one about the penguin and the..." He did, yeah. I won't do that one. And I remember the first night I was there. The first night in the bar, my job, I sat on the sort of edge of the stage to do the lights and the intro.
Yeah.
And I was sort of not seen, but seen if they looked. And the comedian said to me, "Do us a favour, mate. I'm going to say to you at one point," because they always ended with a song. That was their thing. I'm going to say, I'm going to finish with a song now, ladies and gentlemen. Can we put some nice mood lighting on, please? And I want to look at you, but don't do anything. Oh, okay. Are you sure? Yeah, don't do anything. All right, okay. So he gets to the end. He goes, "Right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to finish with a song. Can you give me some mood lighting, please?" So I did what he said, and I did nothing. And he said it again. "A bit of mood lighting." I did what he said, I did nothing. Tells the audience again, 3 million unemployed, and we've got a dickhead on the lights. And that gets a big round of applause, right? And I'm virtually on the stage. So now they're all looking at me. And I look at the audience and I go, "This can't be right, can it? Is this allowed? This is like, you've told me to say that. Now I'm just the butt of the joke, He sings his song and off you go. I don't have to do that every week. That was my job, was to sit there and take that.
Right. Different sort of abuse, but you became like the kind of straight man.
Yeah, I just couldn't believe how anyone could just say. But there was also an ex-professional table tennis player. He said the same thing. He said, I used to have to be the ref. The ref meaning the nominal ref. They'd show that they could play with saucepans on the back of their hands. They were brilliant, these guys. Right. They said, "You be the ref, and the first point, when I win the first point, you've got to say, 'Love one.'" I don't. That's tennis. He goes, "Yeah, no, just say love one," instead of 1-0. All right, yeah. Love one, yeah. I bet you would. Love one. That's tennis, you dickhead. What's going on here? I mean, totally set up to like a right numpty, you know. But it's just a different world of anything to get a laugh, you know. And half of me sort of understands that. I really do, you know.
Yeah. You will do. I mean,
as you get older, you start going, there are sort of things you do.
Here's Wilf.
Oh, here's your cat. That I've heard times in the back. Oh, look, there he is.
Wilf.
Hello, Wilf.
He wanted to.
Oh, he wants to join us. Come on, Wilf. I'm a fan of this guy. He's always in your background with you.
Yeah.
You know, Wilf. Oh, he's
looking a bit arthritic, isn't he?
He's a bit old, isn't he? He's less.
Yeah. Let's see if I can. Thank you, Will, for your contribution. I don't know whether he'll shut up or.
I wish I could speak cat. You don't know if they're going, please help me, or hello.
Yeah.
Oh, he's lovely,
isn't he? He's so sweet, yeah.
Is he a type of cat?
Yeah, he's a Maine Coon.
Oh, Maine Coon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's nice meeting Will.
Yeah, well,
I can put a face to the meow now.
So how long were you at Pontins for then?
So I did.
Well, we were talking about. I suppose the thing that struck you was I don't know, what was it about them using you as a foil that really.
If I'm going to be honest, right, this is what I really thought. I didn't mind being a foil, it didn't bother me at all. What bothered me was, do you know what? I thought, God, it's really easy to make people laugh. You say that, and then I'll say that. And it's like, I suppose, look, I'm on a panel again now, which is genuine just chat. Right?
Yeah.
And I love things that are real. Now, that sounds odd because, you know, I'm in a sitcom that is very not real and not improvised. But there's, for me, nothing ever has beaten just having a laugh with your mates when it comes to comedy. When it comes to comedy, that's the pinnacle of comedy.
Yeah. I mean, if I was going to talk, I think it was true when people in the early days when people asked me, what was different, I suppose, about my comedy is the thing that upset me in a way about those old school guys was it was so mechanical, really. It was just, and what I was trying to reproduce was exactly what you're talking about, was the humour that is expressed between friends, and that's what I was attempting to do. I think that's
probably the difference. I can't imagine. Well, I was going to say I can't imagine the old school comics sitting around and telling each other jokes. That is not true.
No, it's all they do is tell each other jokes. Yeah, they can't talk to each other.
They're very interchangeable, the jokes between each comedian. What you're not getting is a sense of that person. No. Of thinking, what is it? That's what was amazing about watching you guys when I was watching on telly, was going, oh my God, I think
right, yeah.
Or a different level of connection and laughing. You weren't just smiling a bit and chuckling. You were all over the place with laughter because you thought, I thought this is the kind of thing that me and my mates would do, this kind of madness or nonsense, or whatever it was you're watching. You might be watching observational comedy, which I've never seen before, and going, I mean, literally going, I would watch an observational comedy and go, oh my God, I thought, how did anyone that did that?
Right.
And he does that. This is incredible.
Yeah.
Or I mean, I think before I say you personally weren't an observational comedy, but still going, I thought this is the kind of stuff that only I would find funny. Yeah. It's on television. Other people must be like me.
Yeah.
He's like
but that's one of the
doing it.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the challenges, I think, is one of the is to get into thoughts that people have just before they realise they're having them.
Yes.
That's being a comic, really. Yeah.
You didn't even realise you were thinking this.
No. It's a comic gets there a few weeks or months before you. But the other thing was, it was also, genuinely, that we did, me and Rick and Aidan, Peter, Nigel and Dawn and Jennifer, we did make each other laugh. I mean, that wasn't put on.
That's the key thing, right?
It was very joyful that to be on the tour bus or whatever.
Yeah.
We just had such a laugh between.
Yeah. And I think that, even though I didn't know that, that comes through, because you go, for me, obviously you get in with comics and they ask advice sometimes, and I always go, all you can really do is do what makes you laugh, what you think is funny, and just hope there's enough other people to call it a career that don't agree with you. And if they don't agree with you, keep doing it for fun. But it's even an added bonus if there's enough people agreeing with you or have shared the same sense of humour, because it's the ultimate in... nothing had ever made me laugh more than being with my mates. Nothing.
No.
And so to be able to recreate that's why I personally love... I know people aren't keen on panel games, but if they're not written... I suppose I'm only talking about Would I Lie to You, let's be honest. But
yours is the best of them.
Well, thanks. I mean, it's for me, it's never going to be as good as with my mates in the pub. It's the closest I've found so far to do it for a living and be on the telly, and have that kind of recreated fun of having a laugh. It's never quite as good. It's not like the same with your mates. My proper mates outside showbiz doing that sort of world of thing, but no one's interested in filming that and hanging with each other. And I'm glad they don't.
They wouldn't.
Ruin it.
Yeah. So you've had 10 years of shitty jobs. What sort of shit were you doing?
So between, I always say this, every job you can imagine when you get paid less than 100 quid, I've probably done. But I should bear in mind, this is the late 80s, so it's worth a bit more 100 quid. Yeah. But even so I was Bluecoat at Pontins. I can always remember £65 for that. Yeah. But it was free food and free accommodation. So I'd never been that rich. I couldn't spend the money. Everyone was buying you drinks and, so I did that. What else have I done? In no particular order, I've worked at the bingo hall. I've fruit picked in Australia. I've fruit picked in Banks near Southport. Tomato picking.
Banks, one of my mates at Southport came from Banks. Yeah,
very small little place. It's when where Southport ends, it suddenly becomes very what's the word I'm looking for? Market.
And it's very rich. So for Phil McIntyre, the promoter.
Eastern Southport.
And I remember him talking about the soil there because it's alluvial. It's unique, and you can grow 3 crops a year.
Well, that would make sense because as soon as you leave Southport, it's very congested. So there's lots of houses, and then suddenly there used to be a pub called the Plough, and that's where Southport ends. And suddenly it becomes green everywhere. Yeah, and everybody's business is growing vegetables.
Well, also interestingly, because my relatives live just outside. Between Southport and Alexei now, and in their village, there's really in a sense 3 Michelin-starred restaurants. Yeah, and they said it's partly because of the soil that you can get.
Well, that would make sense. There's just so many markets. So everyone that was my sort of age at school that were looking for extra would often go off tomato picking. And I think from memory you'd get paid. Or was that the Australian job where you get paid in weight?
Right.
So certainly in Australia, I did apricot picking.
Right.
And they said you will get paid X amount of dollars when you fill a certain box.
Right.
So, so he shows me the box and we're looking at it going, that's a big box for whatever it was, $50 or something. We were picking these things for... Thinking that box is not getting... I'm thinking the biggest crate you could imagine. You couldn't pick it up afterwards, put it like that. It's huge, And so, there's lots of dead-end jobs I worked. I was once employed in a mate's factory, drilling asbestos tiles.
These are really shit jobs.
Well, proper crap. One way, nothing even remotely what you'd call a career.
No.
But I remember there was an interesting when I was doing the tile drilling, where we'll talk about this in a minute. I'd got into uni at this point as a mature student. So I was like early 20s now. And they used to take the mickey out of me because they'd been all working there for years and I was off to London to do me drama and film and television, and they used to take the mickey out of me. And I remember there was a guy there, though. They asked me, would I like to do the night shift because you get paid time and a half? And I was off to uni. I needed the money. I'll do the night shift. So it was just me and him. The guy that used to mock me a bit. Yeah. It's just me and him. This would be an interesting vibe. Oh, bullying's not the right word, but I was the butt of the joke. Yeah. It was good natured, but I was very much the young lad, the butt of the joke. He's off to drama.
Seems like this is a play.
It is a
theatre club.
But I remember he was a Geordie guy, and he said suddenly his vibe changed. It was just me and him. He goes, "So this university, what's?" And he started asking me about it. And for the first time, I saw a chink in his arm, and he said, "Like, I used to love doing acting and stuff." And suddenly he mellowed, he softened, and he'd had a bit of experience himself just in plays when he was a kid. Yeah. but he was sort of giving me the, you go for it, lad, sort of talk. You know what I mean? It was sweet, you know. But it was a reminder that, I should have a go. I might fail at it, but I'd rather fail and, you know.
So where did you go to university? I went to
what I'd done is, I basically, I'd watched you guys on the telly. I'd now been at the Comedy Store in 1999, seen it live, and had that epiphany of, now I know where it happens.
Right.
This is, you go to these, because I think someone got up in the middle, it wasn't a professional, the open spot. I didn't know they were called open spots then.
Yeah.
But I'm now introducing a short act. I thought, and it was small, it was such a small club, probably bigger than the one the strip joint one, but still, it was intimate. It's like, it seemed like I could literally touch the stage. I could probably have a go at this one day, right? I know where to come anyway.
Yeah.
But it was still a million miles from being confident enough to do it.
Well, shut up.
And so that night changed everything, because I thought, right, if I want to be like these guys, I need to be worldly wise and emotionally secure and be confident enough to go. You couldn't get on that stage with any insecurities, or so I thought. Right? I thought, these guys must be so, I don't know, spiritually enlightened almost. Get on that stage. They must be so sorted in their head.
Yeah.
You know, cut to me being on the second grade. If I'd have known how insecure they all are, I'd have just gone up there and there.
Yeah.
So I thought, what do I do? Well, I better travel the world. So I went to Australia for a year. I better go to university. I better do the things that you're supposed to do to be that type of person, you know.
Wow.
And so I applied to do drama, film and telly. I just wanted to be a stand-up, but I didn't know where the hell to start that.
You couldn't do it then. There was one, Middlesex Polytechnic did a drama module. Is that where you went?
No, but with
Hugh Thompson.
With Hugh Thompson.
Yeah, Thomas. Thomas Thompson.
Hugh Thomas. He used to be connected with Downstairs at the King's Head. He was compere there.
Yeah.
Well, I went for an audition to be at West London Institute of Higher Education, which became Brunel. Thank God, because it sounded like an adult learning centre, what it was called. Yeah. West London Institute of Higher Education. Yeah. Brunel sounded far more grand. The first time, it just sounded like I was part of the, I don't know, if you're at West London Institute of Higher Education, it's part of the agreement for leaving prison early. You must attend the West London. And so, but I had to audition to get in. I had to do a monologue. Now, I, at this point, had done some introducing at Pontins. I'd done the Miss Silver Lady beauty contest, which was for ladies of an older age with silver hair, you know, sponsored by Silver Lady, sparkling wine, all this kind of stuff. So I'd done a bit of that, but not performing, not proper performing. And I had to suddenly do an audition to get in. I'd never been in a play, even at school. I'd never done anything. But what I did like at the time was Spitting Image.
Right.
And I used to like the Alan Bennett puppet.
Right.
So I thought, I'll do an Alan Bennett monologue.
Right.
He did Talking Heads with, he was in one of them on television. There's a cream cracker under the sofa again. So I basically did a really bad Spitting Image impression of Alan Bennett version of that and got in somehow. But terrified, absolutely terrified.
So this was to do film and whatever.
Film, television, and John. But what it really was to be a stand-up. And I thought, if I'm in that world, at least it will feel normal to say that. Because I didn't... It's like I had this little secret. I wanted to be a stand-up. I didn't dare tell anybody, you know.
Right.
I could tell these people because they're all like me.
Yeah.
And I thought it'd be like Fame on telly. I thought the TV show. I thought at the break, someone will get up and play the piano and someone will sing in the canteen and I'll do my joke. I'll do my comedy, you know. I had this delusional world of what was going to happen. The reality was I got in. It was 9 hours a week. And I ended up working full-time virtually at William Hill's in Hounslow, the bookmakers.
Really?
It wasn't what I thought it was going to be at all. It was still brilliant in terms of it gave me an opportunity to, I ran a comedy night myself. I booked the acts and I used to host it. So I got a lot from it, you know. But it certainly wasn't this place that...
wasn't like Juilliard.
It wasn't like Goldsmith. You know, only did 9 hours. It was a modular degree and, you know, I had to just get on with being a
You're only supposed to teach you now, because this was in the days when university was still... They only supposed to teach you 9 hours. You're only supposed to do 9 hours. I mean, I only did 9 hours a week at art school, but I was supposed to be there every day.
Well, I thought in my head it'd be like, RADA. Putting on plays.
But it wasn't.
It wasn't like that at all.
Okay.
But what it made me realise was, I better just get on with doing an open spot, hadn't I?
Yeah.
Because no one's going to do it for me. I better... just go to a local comedy club, get up and do it. and have a go, which is what I did, And then I met my girlfriend, though, which is now, we've been together 30 odd years now, so she's my wife. But so I remember telling her, I want to be a comedian. She went, do it then. I went, all right, yeah, of course. It's like a little dirty secret I had there.
Well, it was. I mean, that was one of the things when the comedy club started. No parent would ever say that their child wanted to be a comedian or was a comedian. It was shameful.
Yeah,
it was like, I can't think of anything. It was like being a stripper or it was and of course because those working.
This was in the early 90s, but still, it obviously changed a lot since you guys started it all.
Yeah,
but it was only 12 or 13 years later,
right?
And so, well, 14 years maybe, if it was 1980. Did you start all that? Maybe 79. 79. So we're talking 14, 15 years later. It become commercialised a bit. There was jonglers. There was the Comedy Store had moved. Clubs were starting to open up, and it was no longer it was lucrative, shall we say, business. But it still had a bit of an ethos of that early 80s feel about it. It certainly wasn't what it became. It was the start of that, maybe, in the early 90s. In terms of, well, let's just say, jonglers, for example, there was 2 clubs when I started out.
Right.
You were still struggling to leave London and make a living.
Yeah.
They just started. There was one maybe in Manchester that was just starting out in the early 90s. There was one in Leicester or somewhere.
Yeah.
But now it was. It became a national thing.
Yeah.
But now it's in decline again in the sense that comedians are struggling again.
What was that one where there was one in Glasgow and there was one in Birmingham?
The Glee Club.
Glee Club.
There was the Glee Club.
Yeah.
So like the Glee was another example of the proper purpose-built comedy clubs. There was starting to spring up. But it's fair to say that for no other reason than the luck of the year I was born, that I hit the circuit at a time when it was absolutely starting to really kick off. So that by the end of the 90s, there was this boom where, when I was properly on the circuit, you'd get Canadian and American comedians flying in just to do it and go on 4 weeks later because it was financially viable.
Really? And that's just playing like Glee clubs and jonglers.
I mean, I was regularly playing 4 a night. I did 2 comedy stores and 2 jonglers. Sometimes 5. I'd stick a 5th one in the middle. And I had my moped. So I'd regularly do 3 on a Friday and 4 on a Saturday. Occasionally a 5. It was rare to do a 5. It was just too hard to do.
What sort of money were you making?
Well, so that was. You used to get about 150 quid in cash for a gig. So to earn 600 quid on a Saturday night.
That's a lot, yeah.
I'd never earned more than 100 quid a week in most jobs I'd have. Now I was earning 600 quid on a Saturday night. Yeah. I mean, it was rare to be fair. I'm not saying I used to every week.
But that's true. I mean, as soon as I started doing comedy gigs, I couldn't believe.
For 20 minutes.
Yeah.
If you had a proper job, I was earning more in 20 minutes than I'd earned in a week in other jobs.
Yeah.
I don't remember any job where I was walking out with 150 quid at the end of the week. And I get that for 20 minutes. I could not believe it. And I'm not going to lie. Obviously, I do telly. It's very lucrative. Yeah. But I've never felt quite as rich as I did back there. Because I used to get paid in a similar packet, a little brown envelope. Yeah. That used to get me weekly wage. And I thought, oh my God, it's for 20 minutes. This is just unbelievable, And
I thought for a while I might offer that service where you'd pay like comedian, like in the 90s, but you'd pay them and you give them cash in a little envelope, even though they were making that, because there's nothing more. I'm sure people don't have that experience.
If you're working, nothing beat the Friday feeling. If you've had normal jobs, you were always. Well, I was always skint.
Yeah.
I mean, in the bingo, I used to earn 65 quid a week. I mean, rent was 25 quid a week in a bedsit. So I had 40 quid. I had it all proportioned off that. I think I could survive 15, 20 quid a week for food if I budgeted well. So 20 quid was my spending money. Yeah. 20 quid when you work, I worked behind a bar in the bingo hall. So I didn't have to pay for that. Perhaps I should have done, but there was some perks to being a barman at the bingo club as well. But by payday, you were skint. The idea of being skint on payday was really common. That's what, if you grew up in a working class house, you are used to being skint on payday. So nothing beats getting paid.
It was magical. Magical feeling. And So who was your cohort then in terms of who were you?
On the circuit?
On the circuit, yeah.
Yeah, well, my sort of era of starting out was of people that you'll know. There was loads that you won't have heard of because they disappeared or, you know. But the people that were around at that time were Ross Noble. There was the Mighty Boosh were doing a lot on the circuit. They were my sort of Edinburgh cohorts when I used to show flat with them. But really starting out. So we did 3 or 4 years of flat sharing where they were the talk of the town and I really was not. That was a good lesson.
Yeah.
You know, oh God, it's like the phone would ring. Yeah, I'll just get them. It was always like, you know, they're always being nominated for awards and stuff. But I
suppose you wouldn't think of you and them being similar because you have, I suppose, of all the people, you carry a certain air of still of the old days.
Yeah, I get told that a lot, and I used to see that as almost an insult because I used to think they'd use the word mainstream in a some of them will use it as an insult. They'd say you're all right. I mean, you're a bit mainstream, but you're all right. So what you're saying is you're good. Your problem is more than a few people might like you.
Yeah.
You know, but then I learned that actually I was lucky in that respect because it got me both worlds in a way. You know? I was able to do Edinburgh. You know, I did a sketch show with Catherine Tate at the time no one had ever heard of, never heard of me either, you know, but we were able to do Edinburgh and sort of hold our own and get those sort of nominations and be part of that world. But also, so when I was at Edinburgh, I used to hear people go, oh, he's all right, but he's a bit of a jonglers comedian. I used to think, hang on, I'm a jonglers comedian.
Yeah.
Can't have a go at them lot. But likewise, when I used to do jonglers and hear them go, oh, you know, the time he's in Edinburgh type. Wouldn't last 5 minutes of this sort of late night stag do feeling.
Right.
He's an arty-farty wanker. I used to think, hang on, I'm an arty-farty wanker when I go to Edinburgh. I wasn't, but I was on that world as well. So I realised, actually, this is a bit of an advantage, you know, to have that.
Yeah.
You know? But it wasn't deliberate. I was just lucky that that's how it was perceived. I wasn't aiming it for that. I just did what I thought was funny, and then everyone else decided what it fitted into, you know.
Yeah, but it feels, it doesn't, there's nothing forced about it.
No, really. You know, I certainly wasn't. I still think that now about, I don't know, let's use Michael McIntyre as an example. And if people don't like Michael McIntyre, there's a sort of accusation that he's trying to play to as many people as possible.
Yeah.
So therefore everything's diluted and everything's watered down. No comedian's that good. All comedians can do is what they think is funny.
Right.
And then how many people they play to is determined by other factors, sociological reasons or whatever. I just don't believe comedians are... I don't know many comedians who've tailored it for success.
Right.
I just think they do what they do. And then people decide... Let's think. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Do you think that they do? Do you think?
I think some do. Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong. All I know is that a lot of the people I've seen go on to success were doing that when hardly anyone was watching.
Right.
They weren't doing anything massively different back in the day, anyway. I mean, I have to say, that example is I didn't cross over with Michael much on the circuit, but from what they tell me, he was doing that sort of stuff to 100 people anyway.
Yeah,
it's not like not like he was walking on in a t-shirt going, "Let me tell you about what." Says, you know, he wasn't.
Yeah, that's sold out.
And they go, "Actually, there's no money in this. I'll put a suit on. I'll do something like that." You know, most people I know were doing what they do, and some it worked for a big audience, some it didn't.
Yeah.
And so what if it didn't? You know, some of the best comedians I've seen weren't selling out big arenas anyway. You know, so they were still brilliant, albeit to less audience. You know, so. But for me personally, I was, you know, I don't think I've ever had as much fun as I have in smaller clubs.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing more exciting than little King downstairs at the King's Head. We're talking about Hugh there, you know. Clubs, but just being on that circuit was probably some of the happier comedy times I've had because that's all I wanted. I genuinely wanted to
really
crack the circuit. It was hard to crack the circuit. If you were to get in at the comedy stores, I mean, you sounds like you started it off, so you didn't have to ring up and say, "Can I have a
No, I was the first person.
You were the first person. Yeah. It's a bit harder for some of us coming later. We used to have to ring Don Warner and go, "Don, please, can I just have another open spot?"
No, I bought Don's first house in south of France.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, well, I was that we had all the benefits of you lot started it off, and all the negatives of everyone phoning in and wanting to get on the bill, because it still has that cachet. The Comedy Store is still the club, you know. To want to be in. Well, listen, I'm getting older now. I don't know what it is anymore, but certainly when I was on the circuit, nothing was better than playing the Store, because I think it had the history of what you lot had started. So we thought, this is the, there was pictures on the wall of you lot, and oh my God, can I play this club as well? And it was hard to get in, it was a battle. So when to crack the circuit was genuinely hand on all I wanted, because if you wanted to be on telly, you were in the wrong job. Stand-up wasn't working on telly then. There was no real stand-up shows on telly. There'd obviously been Friday Night Live and Saturday Night Live. I think it changed its name, didn't it, when it changed the day of the week? But you saw stand-up then. But those comedians, from what I can see, would leave the show and then carry on going on the circuit. It wasn't like they were launched into fame as a stand-up necessarily. There still was a perception, certainly when I was doing it, that stand-up doesn't work on telly.
Really?
Yeah, very much.
What were you doing?
You're in the wrong job if you want to be famous.
Really? Okay. What were you doing for material? Did you write all your own material?
Yeah, totally. So I was like, I was very much, I suppose, I don't want to say gag teller, but nothing was true. I remember when I started out, everything was, it's very rare that I would say, do you know what I noticed? Or do you know what happened to me? If I ever talked about me nan, it was a fictional nan for the sake of a joke. I suppose I was.
But that's one of the things. I mean, that is for me. I mean, we've sort of derided those mechanical gag tellers, but a good fucking gag is the greatest.
Well, I think the one thing that even people that never tell a joke on a traditional setup punchline will still go, I had a good one the other day. Yeah. They'll still tell me. We all appreciate a very good job.
Yeah. And in between, that's one of the, I mean, people don't, reviewers and stuff, because they don't really understand the craft of it, I think. But always in between, people would see with me, the Marxism and the Bertolt Brecht impressions and the anger and the kind of count, the hatred of classes. But within that, woven in with that, it's just a lot of solid fucking gags.
Gags. Well, it's interesting. Well, I used to absolutely love, when we first got together, me and my, keep calling that then girlfriend now. I'm just making the point that the person who I've been with for that years, we were at college, we met at that college that I just talked about, at uni. And at that time, Alexei's stuff was on. That's what it was called, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting that I'm talking about stand-up not working on telly, because your stand-up was, you were walking down the street.
Yeah, doing stand-up,
You were on, so it's not, I think there was ways of doing stand-up on telly.
Yeah.
But standing there with a mic, with an audience, was seen as, and I see what they mean. It's like, you're never going to be able to recreate that club.
No, exactly. That's
diluted.
Yeah.
So you weren't trying to recreate that. You did it whilst walking down the street.
Yeah.
But it was still stand-up.
Yeah.
It was still...
Most of it was stuff I'd done.
Yeah, it was called stuff, and it was stuff.
Yeah. But it was also material I'd done.
Probably in clubs, right?
Yeah.
But you obviously felt, why do it in the club if it's, I don't know, whatever reason.
Well, not clubs, darling, big theatres.
Well, but I'm making the point that in front of an audience.
Yeah.
You were doing it in front of an audience, but you chose not to do that on the telly, right?
Yeah. Because we felt like it was fake. Because we'd done, before we did the young ones, Paul Jackson, we did two shows doing our acts. And in the first one, we were in like one of the studios in Television Centre, and because that they weren't allowed alcohol, so there was an audience drinking coloured water while we did our acts with the fucks taken out. Right. And it felt like...
Of course, and to me, it was... love it or hate it, the reason why Live at the Apollo, I think, became successful was because, well, look, when we were being told, my generation of comics on the, when we were being told stand-up doesn't work on telly, the not number one, but the big selling things of VHSs were stand-ups in theatres.
Right.
So Eddie Izzard was in the charts, Lee Evans was in the charts, but stand-up doesn't work on telly, but they're putting that cassette in and watching it on the telly.
Yeah.
So I thought, that doesn't make sense, that, because... So what I think they did realise they were doing wrong was stand-up made for telly, as opposed to filming a live event.
Right.
That was working. But if you're looking down the barrel of the lens and having to fabricate, there's been loads of attempts at sort of stand-up show, and I've been on some of them, where they put little tables out.
Yes.
Well, Tap of the Shunters was that.
Yeah.
Back in the 70s. But to try and recreate it wasn't working. So don't recreate it. Just put it on in a theatre and film the event.
Stuart Lee's show or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, that's when it did start working.
Right.
They're filming the event rather than making it for the telly. So,
right.
Again, love it or hate it, it was a success live at the Apollo. And I think that's where they realised, well, hang on, do what the DVDs are doing. Just film it in a club and don't have them looking down the lens.
Right.
Just film the event,
Okay, then. Well, that's obviously part one of Alexei podcast with Lee Mack. We'll be coming back as soon as we get ready with part two, in which Lee talks more about, I think, his sitcom, Not Going Out, which has been on the telly for a long time, and it's so to do a sitcom these days takes a lot of skill, I think, and. Just his kind of evolution as a performer, really. So tune into when we get it ready. We will drop part two of Alexei Wolf-Mabanger and Lee Mack.
And I just want to say thanks to everyone for the lovely feedback on the last episode, the Reflectorama one. That was nice. We took a gamble doing that kind of concept.
I think people like me and you just do chatting anyway, don't they? I don't know whether, from time to time. So we hadn't done that for a while.
Yeah.
But also, the fact that it's a look back over. It's it's not it's a rickety old thing, isn't it? This podcast, it's not. It comes out when it feels like it. And it's a bizarre range of people. But for those that love it, I think there's if this is the sort of thing you love, then you will love this. It is. I think for a few, for a select group of people with terrific taste, this is just the greatest
the bee's
podcast
knees,
there is. It's the greatest thing that there's ever been.
It's the best podcast available.
Yeah. I should say also that my radio series, Strangers on the Train, seems to have really broken through. We got 5 stars in the Daily Mail. Really good preview in Guardian, I think, in the Times as well.
The Mail gave you 5 stars.
Yeah. Well, they don't, they just preview.
How does that feel? Like to be lauded by something that you kind of disagree with so much?
It's not like it's. Well, I think that the show itself is not, it's an inoffensive show,
Well, certainly, yeah.
So it's fine. I'll take it. I'll take whatever plaudits I can get, really. I think it just, in a way, I suppose you could say that somebody like me who won't dilute their politics, but on the other hand can make something, because as mainstream as that show is a testament to me, I suppose, in a way.
Was it the one with Bidil on it that they gave 5 stars to? Maybe that's
no.
Interesting.
The one before.
But how many more episodes of that are left?
There's 5 in this series, so there's another 3.
And what day and time does it air?
Saturday, 10:30 in the morning.
There we go.
It's a nice little slot.
Probably on BBC Sounds as well.
And it's on Sounds and all that. And I think it's repeated during the week, during the day, during the week as well.
Nice.
But yeah, it seems to have, sometimes when you're doing a thing, it suddenly you feel a kind of click with the public where it suddenly, people start, it suddenly you feel like it's connected with a large number of members of the public, really. And it's, it's a nice feeling. It doesn't mean the BBC won't cancel it, but.
It's a very podcasty format as well.
It is, in a sense, yeah.
And people do like just listening to people chatting.
Yeah. It's very soothing, I think. I myself, if I can relax, I find it soothing. It's and occasionally there is. I don't know if we're doing Edinburgh Aberdeen next week, but there's particularly the opening interview, and that is just amazing. I mean, just extraordinary radio.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. And it's also, I have to say, doing this podcast that's made. I don't think I would have had the skill to talk to all those strangers without having having done the hundreds of hours on this podcast.
Dealing with me.
Dealing with you. But also with, all the people.
Yeah, because it's not always your celebrity chums, is it? Sometimes it's someone you've never met before. It's just they wrote an article you're interested in, and now you have to make an hour and a half conversation with them.
Exactly. So it's that skill in talking to people that I think has come from me. I wouldn't have been able to do it without this podcast, I think. So thank you, everybody.
Can I ask you a really random question before we go?
For sure.
What are your thoughts on Peter Gabriel?
Peter Gabriel?
Yeah, the works of.
I quite like Peter Gabriel. Obviously, I mean, I was only really into his, that sort of burst of stuff that he had in whenever that was, really. Games Without Frontier and stuff like that is when I was most attuned with his work. Why'd you ask?
I think he's a fascinating artist, and I like some of the later stuff he's done. I love the early, like Sledgehammer is just such a perfect song. Yeah. But he's done some later stuff with orchestras.
Yeah, no,
and he did a song about a South African prisoner of war called Biko, about Steve Biko.
Steve Biko.
And I just thought I think he's a fascinating artist, and I was wondering. I was going to ask you, who do you prefer, Peter Gabriel or Elton John, just as a random question. I was also wondering if you'd met him or had any stories in
Peter
the 80s.
Gabriel, yeah, I don't know whether I did meet him once. Did I? Was he there? Yeah. He was. It's a long story.
Random question, like I said, had nothing to do with anything.
He's an artist who continued to make interesting work. And, of course, now he's a bald guy.
Yep, he's a beardy baldo.
He's a beardy bald guy. It was me and Nigel Planer have just been away up north in Annick making Celebrity Antiques road trip, and we stayed at a golf course.
Yeah,
and golfers have changed now.
Yeah,
there were all these shiny-headed men, like hundreds of them, all with shaven heads, and they all wear shorts and sort of tight, clingy, dark. I guess they're wicky tops that kind of wick away sweat.
Yeah,
clingy kind of polo shirts and shorts with kind of dark shorts with like a white belt, and they're very unfriendly. That's golfers now, at least in the summer.
Interesting. I played golf last week, so I'm the exception. Me and my friends like causing trouble on the golf course. It's a really fun game. It's a really fun game to play. The people who play it are twats, and they kind of ruin it.
They're just. I mean, you feel like these. We live in a sort of self-confirming world, don't we? Left politics and what have you, and you just think these golfers are not.
Because I guess it's an expensive hobby. So any expensive hobby tends to be dominated by dickheads, right?
Possibly, I haven't really thought it through. It's got, it has particular characteristics, doesn't it? Of businessmen, on the golf course and all that. And
it doesn't need to be. I think it could be. It's so fun and relaxing, and it takes a lot of concentration. And it's really fucking satisfying when you hit the ball. It takes a lot of skill.
It's a bit of an environmental catastrophe. I mean, not so much in this country, but even in this country.
Yeah, like the Dubai. I've played on a course in Abu Dhabi, yeah. My rich uncle took me to play golf, like family friend.
Well, that shouldn't be there, should it?
And it shouldn't, no.
No.
Yeah, but you think it was invented by like rough Highlanders who were just passing the time on a mountain side.
Yeah.
And now it's all elite.
It's awful.
Trump.
Yeah, Trump. Yeah, that's all you have to say, really. Trump.
Maybe I need a new hobby.
Yes.
All right, I think we've yammered on enough, right?
Yeah.
Next time, more Lee Mack, yeah?
No, more Lee Mack, and a Wilf update as well. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Alexei podcast. This show is produced and edited by Talal Karkuti. Music by Tarbush Records. Thanks to Audio Boom for hosting us. Please keep your emails coming in at alexeisaylepodcast@gmail.com. Goodbye.